adolescent and adult psychiatrist, author, and senior fellow at Do No Harm. I have been taking care of patients for 45 years. I'm going to use my time to respond to Dr. McNamara. First, I'm struck by her use of the phrase, sex assigned at birth. Sex is not assigned at birth. Sex is established at conception, and it's recognized at birth, if not earlier. Dr. McNamara claims that her views are science-based, but to claim that sex is assigned at birth is without any scientific basis whatsoever. Its language misleads people, especially children, into thinking that male and female are arbitrary designations and can change. That is simply not true. Dr. McNamara claims that social and medical interventions are the only evidence-based treatment and that scientific evidence shows it is life-saving. Without it, she's warning us, kids will commit suicide. Well, a growing number of countries have effectively banned the care to which she's referring. And thank God there's been no wave of suicides or other mental health catastrophes. 3 years ago, Finland placed strict limitations on medical interventions for minors. Sweden did the same thing after a 14-year-old girl was found to have osteoporosis and spinal fractures from puberty blockers. An investigation concluded, quote, the risks of anti-puberty and hormone treatment for those under 18 currently outweigh the possible benefits. The UK conducted a review and called the evidence very low. They've also placed severe restrictions on the care that Dr. McNamara calls life-saving. Norway also analyzed the data and has made similar changes in policy. The National Academy of Medicine in France warned, quote, great medical caution must be taken in children and adolescents given the vulnerability of this population and the many undesirable, even serious complications the therapies cause. Doctors in New Zealand and Australia have published similar statements. Is Dr. McNamara suggesting that all these countries are rejecting evidence-based treatment and placing their kids at risk of suicide? Regarding that point of view, Finland's gender expert, Dr. Rita Kaltiela, said, quote, it's purposeful disinformation, the spreading of which is irresponsible. All 7 countries, and Florida too, of course, concluded that kids don't need their development interrupted, the girls don't need their periods stopped and their voices lowered, and the boys don't need to grow breasts. What they need is psychotherapy. I have other objections to Dr. McNamara's testimony. She insists that her position, only hers, represents standard medical care. What she doesn't want you to know is that there is no standard. There's a debate. There's a fierce debate. And on the side opposite her stand such prominent figures as Stephen Levine, Kenneth Zucker, Paul McHugh, and James Cantor, among others. These doctors are giants in the field. They have been treating transgender patients and gathering data and publishing papers about them, and I mean no disrespect here, but since before Dr. McNamara was born. The point is that those veteran clinicians and others who have wisdom and experience are ignored because they disagree with the current narrative. They're against medical interventions for the same reason those 7 countries are. There is no evidence of long-term benefit, but there is evidence of harm. I'll end by quoting Jamie Reed, the courageous whistleblower from the Children's Gender Clinic in St. Louis. I believe that that hospital receives the medical education funding that we're discussing today. She said that doctors at that clinic said, we are building the plane while we are flying it. We are building the plane while we are flying it. That's how they described.
Safe spaces are essential for transgender people to find themselves, like building a welcoming treehouse. It's key to make them feel like they belong.
Mr. Swalwell.
Thank you. Mr. Shapiro, thank you for joining us today. I think it is important that you're here as one of the leading conservative voices in the country. And the country has, in the last couple weeks, talked a lot about and Googled Project 2025. It's one of the most Googled search terms right now. And you're not going to get any censorship from me. So I just wanted to know, from your perspective, I think it would help us understand, on just like a scale of 0 to 100%, how much do you support Project 2025?
I think, like President Trump, I haven't looked all that deeply at Project 2025, but it seems that Democrats on this committee, sort of like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, if they say Project 2025 enough, their presidential candidate becomes alive again.
And so, well, let's just talk about pieces of it, and I guess you can tell me if you support it. You probably want less bureaucracy, right?
I do.
I want less bureaucracy. You want more efficiency?
I do.
I want more efficiency. You want taxpayer money spent wisely?
I do. Congrats on becoming a Republican.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents would be proud. Mass deportations, it calls for that. Do you support that part?
I support the deportation of any illegal immigrant who's in the United States who is not of benefit to the generalized American public.
So if they're picking agriculture that puts food on the tables of everyday Americans, they've never committed a crime inside the United States, they didn't come across with documents, should they be deported?
If they have not paid taxes and if their draw on the taxpayer benefits are larger than the contribution they are making to the economy, or if they're involved in criminal activity, they should be deported.
How do we measure that?
The same way that the IRS measures my income every year. It seems like if the IRS can track down every aspect of every receipt that I've ever submitted, and
So
they
if
can do so for hundreds
pay-
of millions of other Americans, they can do that for illegal immigrants as well, except for the fact that no one knows how many are in the country thanks to this administration.
So you would be cool with creating a system where they could pay those taxes if they wanted to, and then stay and work and put food on our table?
It depends on how long it would take for them to pay the taxes, and they would also have to go presumably to the back of the line, although I'm not sure why I'm testifying about immigration policy at this point.
How about banning the abortion pill? That's part of Project 2025. Do you support that part?
I think that that's a state-by-state issue on a personal level.
I'm just asking you.
Sure, I'm a fully pro-life person, which means that I'm not in favor of the distribution of the abortion pill.
Banning same-sex marriage, what about that part?
I am in favor of traditional marriage between a man and a woman, and I'm perfectly fine with anyone having any sort of voluntary sexual arrangement they seek. That's a different thing from whether the government should attach benefits to that personal relationship.
But you think it's a sin to have same-sex marriage?
I mean, I'm confused. Are you asking me as a religious Jew what I think about biblically?
I'm just asking, is it a sin to be gay?
Is it a sin to be gay? I mean, how long do we have here? 2 minutes? I mean, if the basic idea is that sexual orientation is up for government regulation, I'm not in favor of the government regulating the private consenting sexual activity of adults. That is a different thing, once again, from whether the government ought to engage in actual benefits for particular sexual arrangements that adults make.
But again, just you to me, is it a sin or not?
From a religious Jewish perspective, orientation is not a sin, but activity is. That's also the same perspective of most major religions, so far as I'm aware.
Okay. And how about cutting Social Security? Do you support that part of 2025?
I'm not sure what Project 2025.
Events like slavery and the Holocaust still impact Jewish and African American communities, with effects lasting across generations.
It's time for Lefties Losing It. Okay, let's start Lefties with Tempest. She's a charming young lady with this important message.
Hi, my name is Tempest. And if you don't want me to step on your toes, move your feet.
Yes, that's quite profound there. Now to someone who was once mildly funny, but sadly their brain, their spirit, appears to have been broken by Trump derangement syndrome. This is alleged comic Stephen Colbert.
I know how numb we've become, but it's not normal. No other candidate for the presidency has ever had to pause his campaign to defend himself in multiple courts. And I would like to point out that in all 7 of his cases, no one doubts that he did these things. We're just sitting around patiently waiting to find out if the wheels of justice will grind fast enough for there to be any consequences. And the media is covering it like it's any other political story, like it's all horse race.
About as funny as an ingrown toenail and about as useful. And by the way, Stephen, if you think no one doubts he did all these things, then your circle is pitifully small. There's a reason why he's leading in the polls. Now, I want to bring you a blast from the past now. This is a classic Lefties Losing It. Watch this woman lose it and order a street preacher to leave the gayborhood.
This is the neighborhood, and you are not welcome.
That's why I need to be here. You need Jesus, ma'am.
I don't think Jesus can save her, folks. I would love to hear more from her, though.
No, that's irrational. What you're doing is irrational.
It is the most rational thing I've done.
You should love the proclamation of the truth of God's word.
That went on for about another 4 minutes, just shrieking. That's what the left consider a rational argument. Now let's go to the city of North Las Vegas, where the mayor is promoting a fair to showcase local businesses, but only if the owners are black. White folk need not apply.
I'm Mayor Pamela Goins-Brown. As part of our Black History Month celebration, I'd like to invite the community out to our Black-owned business fair on Saturday, February 24th. We will have a DJ, live music, vendors, children's activities, resources, and much more.
Yes, they will have everyone there except white business owners. They're not welcome. Segregation in the name of diversity. Let's end with another clever Aussie comic, John Bernard Cairo. I hope I pronounced his name right. Here he mocks lefties losing it at the hairdressers.
Okay, is it okay if I touch you? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, if I touch you.
Go right ahead.
Before we get started, do you mind if I touch you? I'm also gonna cut my hair. Do you mind if I touch you? Are you serious, bro? Just cut my hair.
Is it cool if I touch you? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool.
It's usually just customary that I ask the person before I touch them.
Some experts say puberty blockers and hormone therapy can have lasting effects. Teens might not fully understand the big choices they're making, like picking a favorite pizza topping forever.
So you've talked a lot about the mental illness and depressed and anxious population in the trans community, but you don't talk about the happy people in the trans community and how these preventative measures of, let's say, like puberty and the surgeries that go for gender affirmation and how these are life-changing and life-saving. I know many people...
How do you know?
Oh, okay. 1 second, if I can finish my conversation.
Okay.
Many people in my life have had these interventions made, and it's saved their lives. I can list dozens of people in my life. So what do you have to say for...
You can list dozens of people who had surgeries and drugs as children and would be dead today if they hadn't?
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Dozens of people who have had interventions, including gender affirming, let's say therapies, yes, hormones, surgeries, that have made their lives better. I'm not saying it didn't force them to commit suicide, but it made their lives better. What do you have to say for the happy trans community?
I guess I would throw it back at you first, because the burden of proof is on you on this one. And I'll explain why the burden of proof is on you. Because, as I went over in the talk, for thousands of years, human beings existed, and there was no such thing as trying to medically transition people into another gender. And as far as we know, there was no suicide epidemic because of it. And then in the last few years, people like yourself have come along and said, we desperately need to do this, or people will be in despair and they might kill themselves. So you are making a claim that contradicts common sense, science, biology, also the entire experience of the whole history of the human race. And so what that means is that the burden of proof is on you to support it. And so I'm going to ask you, you said that people need this stuff so they can live happier lives and potentially it'd be life-saving, you said even. Aside from your anecdotes of your friends who told you so, how do you know that?
Okay, so thinking back to when I was 16 in an anatomy class, when I learned that transgender people tend to have the brain structure that confirms their identity that they identify with. And you can look that up. That's a fact.
I will look that up.
Yeah, it's a fact.
I will look that up and I won't find it.
Yeah.
It's not a fact. It's not a fact.
Should we all pull out Google really quick and look?
So you're saying a trans man has the brain of a woman?
No. I'm saying that a trans man who identifies as a man will tend to have similar brain structure that a cis man would.
And where did you get that from?
Look it up. It's literally, I'm telling you, I learned it from my anatomy class when I was 16. And I looked up the fact before I walked up here because I knew that you would ask.
Okay. That's not true, but it also doesn't answer the question. So let's try to stay focused on one false claim at a time if we can, because we might get bogged down.
Okay.
So you actually started by saying that blocking puberty, which is chemical castration of a child.
Just one example, yeah.
Yeah, is life-saving.
It can be.
How do you know?
Because there are children who have been suicidal that have had these interventions made.
What children? How do you know? And how many children have had that done
Me personally,
and then
I
are
haven't
still
met
suicidal?
children. Me personally, I haven't met enough trans children to answer that question.
Okay.
But I know
You
that
are
the
making-
research exists.
You're making this statement, you're stating it as a fact in front of all these people. There must be a reason, there must be something that you encountered that led you to this rather radical conclusion that to save a child's life, you have to chemically castrate him.
Not every child. No, sir.
Okay, well, that is what you just said. The drugs we give to kids for puberty blockers, so-called puberty blockers, originally are cancer drugs used to treat prostate cancer. They're also used to chemically castrate sex offenders and child rapists. Now we give them to physically healthy kids. You're saying that we need to do that or they will die. And so one last time I'm going to ask you, what evidence do you have of that remarkable claim?
I don't think I claimed that every child would benefit from that.
Well, no, I didn't say you did. You said puberty blockers you said puberty blockers are life-saving. What evidence do you have for that?
They can be. The evidence is the encounters with patients who have had these procedures done, and it has saved I don't want to say it saved their lives, but it has made their lives better. I can't confirm whether or not they're alive right this second, but there are children that it has helped. So what do you have to say for the happy trans community who has benefited from these procedures? That's my question for you.
I guess what I have to say is that your entire question is built on a whole stack of false premises that you can't begin to even remotely defend. So it's a faulty.
She's woke, but doesn't acknowledge all the men who've helped her.
You look good.
Thank you.
Can we have sex?
No, thanks.
No, fuck you. I will rape you. You worry?
Male superiority complex. Does it relate to the male pick-me behavior? Oh, I understand there will be awful men out there who will abuse and rape and harass you and oppress you, but I'm not one of them. If you depend on me to protect you from male violence, you'll be good. That instills in women a fear of independence, that the real solution to the male violence is another man.
Oh, good luck with this. Her argument is that if a man says there are a bunch of bad men out there and they will harm you, and that one way to protect against bad men harming you is to have a good man nearby to stop the bad man. And you're like, nope, I am fully independent. So, for most of human history, in nearly all societies, if you did not have a large male body protecting you, you were in serious and dire trouble. And this happens to be true nearly everywhere on Earth right now.
She's all about the right to bear arms. Who doesn't want personal protection?
In the book, instructs youth on how to find and make pornography. There's photos of naked individuals that are trans. Should students have access to a book like that?
When I was a young man, which was many, many years ago, we had Playboy. You know, we learned it through Playboy. How is this different?
Did you have it in school?
No.
Sometimes it's best to just let people talk. They will show their folly all by themselves.
International Women's Day? Why don't we have an International Men's Day? God bless you, Twitter. Well, you're in luck, because you do. It's actually on November 19th. But you wouldn't know that because you're too busy celebrating it every other day of the year. Really nice woman.
feel like I'm losing my mind.
I'm honored to fight you. I am too, guys. I'm Primetime 99. I just want to say you guys are a poor representation of the youth of our nation. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby! I'm so nervous! Let's go crazy! I never been bully Latina. Why is there any big booty Latinas that go to school here? What's wrong? You seriously insane? No, this is the future. If this is our future, we are fun. Look at this! Hey, I mean, you guys are the ones that are scared of free speech. You have no reason not to like me. You should have been aborted. I should have been aborted. Oh, I should have been aborted.
That on your line. I triggered him. I don't need to say this.
You should have been aborted. I should have been aborted. This is so much fun. Imagine your dick. Does not make you. Does not make you. They don't find tickets. I think you're a nice woman.
If spitting is assault, then what were the police doing? If he reacts, though, he's seen as the bad guy. It's unfair.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I just had a question about a comment you made at the beginning about transitioning from male to female or otherwise.
Yes.
You've talked a lot tonight about how important it is to let people believe what they want to believe and how the government and us have no say telling people what they should think or what they should be able to say. I just wanted to ask, what's the harm, if somebody's going to be a happier person because they say that they're a man or a woman, like what's the harm in just letting them do it?
I'm not in favor of government banning people who are adults. Children I'm in favor of banning because now you're talking about somebody who's not capable of consent. Right? All of our laws are based on the ability of people to consent. If you're a child, you can't consent. So I'm very much in favor of banning gender transition for kids. I think that it's frankly evil. I think you're making decisions for children who are not capable of making decisions for themselves that are permanent and have long-lasting, significant, and severe impact. As far as adults, if you're 25 and you want to get a sex change surgery and you feel like it's going to make you feel better, you have the right to do it. You do. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I mean, the research on this stuff tends to be somewhat conflicting, but if it works for you, it works, right? It's a free country. Now, that's really not the question that's being asked in our society today, because I don't think there are that many people who are like, we want to ban gender surgery for a 30-year-old. I'm not seeing the campaign for that. What I am seeing is a campaign on the left that says that my child is going to be removed from my home 10 years from now if I don't agree with the left's view of how I should treat my child's gender confusion at age 4. I see the left suggesting that they want to fine me if I refuse to say that a man is a woman as a general proposition. Right? If I say that men and women are separate, then the left says this is discrimination. Or the left is going to suggest that it has no impact on my business if I employ a woman at Hooters and she shows up the next day as a man. Right? Like that does have an impact on my business, right? But the left would suggest, well, you should sort of deal with it. Well, it turns out that gender does mean something, and it does have an actual meaning to people outside of you. I'm not going to go along with the general societal willingness to rewrite basic facets of human nature and human biology, and frankly, mammalian biology, in order to suggest that a delusion is true. Now, if the best thing for the person is for the person they can't change what they're thinking, there's no way for them to get out of it, they want to change their body so that they feel that it is more in line with what they're thinking, more power to them, that's their problem. And as I've said before, by the way, I've said this 1,000 times and everybody on the left automatically ignores it, of course. I've said that if I were in a room with a transgender person having dinner with that person, I wouldn't go out of my way to call them by their biological sex. Because it's rude, right? I wouldn't do that if I were sitting right across from them. But if you're asking me in a public forum whether a man is a man and a woman is...
Talking about historical trauma means understanding the lasting impact of things like colonization, slavery, and racism. It's like cleaning up after a party that never ended.
Good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. I'm going to tell you a little story. It's about an advertising campaign so helplessly woke and absurd, but I'm convinced it was designed specifically to irritate me. Not long ago, in a large glass building filled with smug people and Kale Smoothies, the marketing team at HSBC commissioned a children's author to rewrite 3 classic fairy tales. You might well think that's an unusual thing for a bank to do. If you're sitting comfortably, I'll allow them to explain. With financial attitudes shaped as early as 5 years old, the new book challenges traditional gender stereotypes, it says. At this point, I've already lost track, really, of exactly why the bank is rewriting fairy tales or what any of it has got to do with gender stereotypes. But it gets worse. The book, called Fairer Tales, reimagines Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty and Rapunzel as successful businesswomen. Prince Charming is inevitably erased as the main character. He's a prince and he's charming. But apparently that's not enough. The marketing geniuses decided to pay tennis player Emma Raducanu to read the stories for reasons which remain unclear. This is how it went.
Ace, where have you been? The boys and girls are here and they're waiting to hear the 3 tales about money.
My name's Emma and this is Ace. We have a fantastic story for you today. Now, the story may seem like one you know, but the characters in it are a little bit different.
It's hard to believe, but the tennis ball exchanging hilarious banter with Emma Raducanu in the video is not real. It's CGI, and believe it or not, Emma is a tennis player, not an actor. But let's not distract from the powerful core message.
So in the end, the princesses didn't need a prince to save them. They set up their own businesses, saved their money, and then spent it very wisely. Thanks to our princesses, Ace has learnt some new money skills. Maybe you'll buy a tower one day, or set up your own shoe business, or any business you want. Now that you've learned how to save and spend money, you can do anything.
Of course, as we all know, the best way to improve the aspirations of women is by trashing men. And as Emma says, women don't need men at all. She certainly never needed any men, as far as we know, to get where she is today, except, well, her father, of course, who manages her career and, well, fathered her. And then there are her 5 coaches, who so far have all been male. Or Max Eisenbud, her agent, who apparently is very, very good at maximising her earning potential, despite being a man. And then a final twist of this dastardly tale of virtue signalling treachery. It turns out the chairman, chief executive and chief financial officer on HSBC's board of directors are all men too. Well, joining me now is Talk TV contributor Esther Cracker, associate editor of The Mirror, Kevin Maguire, and socialist author Grace Blakely. Grace, I don't know where to start with this. I mean, apart from the fact that as a man, let me just offer Miss Raducanu some advice. I think she's great. And when she won the US Open, it was amazing. But she hasn't won a shoebox since then. And I think she's spending too much time on this commercial stuff and not enough time on the court. That's my personal view as a man. Take it, leave it, trash it, whatever you want.
I think you're missing, actually, the most important part of this story, right? Which isn't like the big man versus women battle that we're all supposed to take a side in. It's the fact that HSBC is a massive international, bank that has frequently been accused of things like money laundering. It was accused of money laundering for Mexican drug cartels. It was accused of supporting tax avoidance and evasion. It's frequently threatened the government of the UK to relocate to another part of the world if we say do something like raise tax on corporations, or if we start regulating the financial sector properly. And this is basically an attempt at kind of pinkwashing. It's saying, don't look at all the terrible things that we've been embroiled in over the last several decades. Don't look at the fact that we're basically trying to undermine democracy by telling you what laws you can and can't pass. Just look at the fact that we've done a nice, pretty little fairy tale. And oh, by the way, if you're a woman and you start a business, then that's great, and that makes you a good woman. Feminism isn't for people who don't get the chance to start.
And it certainly isn't a great thing to be a woman at HSBC, where the vast majority of the people that run the bank are actually men. I mean, that's the problem with this. It's a bit like Barbie, the movie. It's a bit like all these things. There's a kind of subtext here of, well, men are pointless and annoying, and you should never not just rely on them, but have them in your life. Just expunge men from the world, and all will be fine.
Well, yes, but I think that we should be more concerned with why a bank or any business feels the need to actually do this. I don't remember asking HSBC what they think about fairy tales or women in business or anything like that. Why can't they just be a business? Why do businesses feel the need to lecture us or take a particular political position as if we need them as our moral arbiters or anything?
I totally agree. I mean,
Kevin,
Kevin, we've seen this time and again now. Companies just doing these woke advertising campaigns, none of which work. Right, there's an immediate backlash from all their customers who don't like this kind of thing. I think it's a growing number of people, whether you're Bud Light or Gillette when they played this stunt or any of these others. Now we have this, it's not going to work. It's not going to achieve what they think it is. People aren't going to go, fantastic HBC. They're either going to say what Grace said, which is, you're just a bunch of flaming hypocrites, or they're going to say, stop talking to me about this stuff. Just make my bank do its job. Be a banker.
That's why I love it, because it backfires. It is entirely cynical by this bank, which, look, you open a business with them, you can't keep up your repayments on a loan, and they'll have you. They'll have the shirt off your back, they'll have your handbag, your shoes, they'll have your house, they'll have every last penny you've got. But somehow, there's a whole industry convincing them that
Telling young girls they don't need relationships is like teaching them to swim without water. She's completely missed the point about good men in their lives.
Will women be as good at engineering as men?
Not necessarily, but...
Okay, well then, how is that different than the Secret Service example?
Well, the problem is that...
Because the male mind is wired different than the female mind. By the way, men will never be as good... Hold on, I'll prove it to you. Men will never be as good at counseling or psychology sessions as women. Men will never be good at nursing or elementary school education as women. We have certain giftings as our brain is wired a certain way. Women are far better gifted at micro topics, so individual connection, empathetic type conversations, healing people that past trauma and wounds. Men are much better at macro topics, right? Trying to build a building, put a skyscraper up, trying to talk geopolitics, and I'll prove it to you. When you go and you see 5 women eating lunch, they're probably talking about micro topics, conversations they have, relationships, friendships. Men, they're talking about politics, sports, or the stock.
Women naturally care for others. It's like their superpower.
I will educate myself on the trans Native Americans that were running around America. We know that Native Americans were incredibly spiritual. There's no question about that. Which
spiritual? You believe in God?
I do believe in God, yes.
So
that doesn't make me believe in trans people. That doesn't make me believe that you can switch your parts. I don't believe they were performing surgeries. And you can let me know the wrong
people
body.
That felt that they didn't belong in those binary genders that we have.
Okay, so you're talking about somebody in the history of Native American history had a feeling that they were, and now you're saying that they're trans.
I'm just saying, I don't think you're really addressing what I'm asking. I'm saying that
I think I've addressed it like 20 times, and you're just not wanting to hear it because you want to believe that there were trans Native Americans that were chopping off their genitals. They weren't. This is very common when people take...
Hats off to Candace for her intelligence and honesty. That baby will come out rolling its eyes, like, wow, is this what I'm in for? There's really no way to explain what's going on here.
Wokeism is a different thing. Wokeism suggests that all inequalities of today are attributable to not only historic injustices, but also continuing injustices in the now, and that all disparity is attributable to discrimination.
Like that, but a conservative.
Not just that.
A conservative is the only person. And I want to know why. Why is it that conservatives are the only people who define it like that? Why are conservatives the only people?
Okay, so we're gonna have to stop here because this is going nowhere.
I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't.
Fact check, true. Has anybody ever become more attractive because of wokeism? I mean, name the person who's become way...
Some styles are more eye-catching. Know what I mean? Are people actually saying this is woke? It's like trying to fill up on snacks instead of a meal.
The women that don't have a voice or don't feel like they can voice, asking for rights, basic health care.
So a huge question, the pro-life, pro-choice movement is, when does life begin? In your opinion, when does life begin?
So I have a 30-year-old child who still lives at my house, and I pay his phone bill. And so I tell him his life begins when he gets out and he makes his own decisions.
So, you know, hypothetically, if you wanted to terminate his life, you're like, you live with me, you know, you're mine.
How old are you?
20.
Okay, I'm 52. My children, yeah, there are times when I've realized I don't drink enough to deal with them.
Awesome. So what y'all's names and what got you out here today?
My name's Abby. I'm Maria.
Awesome. What got you out here today?
So it was mostly me.
Mostly you?
Mostly me, and I dragged her out here. But not like...
Less drag. Like, I wanted to come out here, obviously.
But it was my idea in the first place. I've been wanting to do... Like, I wanted to attend a march for, like, the past 4 years.
Yeah.
I just turned 18, so I can finally, like, do stuff on my own, and I can finally, like, come out here all the way to DC by myself or with my friend.
And what's your thoughts on abortion?
Abortion? I think, well, as the sign says,
Stay out of my pants.
Yeah.
Men, stay out of this woman's pants.
Exactly. So I think I shouldn't have to fight for my right to choose.
Yeah.
So
I think a man doesn't know, like, he doesn't understand how it feels, and he doesn't go through what women go through and people with uteruses go through, so there's no reason for him to feel like it shouldn't be up to them on what we get to do with our body, which doesn't affect anyone else, and in the end could benefit everyone more than hurt people.
Life begins, who knows? But if I'm dying, bleeding internally, I don't want to wait 4 hours for my doctor to meet with lawyers to come up with an affirmative defense why he should validate the reasons to go in and do a procedure that's going to save my life, which is the laws in several states now. So life is not the deciding factor.
And what would you...
My life, as it says, it's not pro-life when the woman dies while we wait and we put in barriers that are going to endanger her life.
And what would you say to the 96% of scientists that say life begins at conception? What would you say to them?
I don't think, even in the Bible, if it's from a biblical viewpoint, the Bible doesn't say that. Jewish law, when a baby takes his first breath, that's when life begins.
And what would you say to the 96% of scientists that say life begins at conception? Yeah.
Well, then take that embryo out and put it in a petri dish, and what's going to happen to it?
That's what you would say to them?
It's not going to live. At that point, it's a parasite, and so that's not life. I mean, that's a living being, but it's living off of somebody else. So if you don't keep the person it's living off of healthy and alive, then that life inside has no chance.
And what would you tell to the people that say life began at conception?
I truthfully believe, like, you can have your own opinions, and I think you should draw the line at forcing your opinions onto others.
Yeah.
Someone
Especially
might not
when it
agree.
comes to religion.
Yeah. Someone might not agree with what I say, and I might not agree with what they say, but I don't believe I should torture them or make them think that they're wrong because of their beliefs.
Okay.
A lot of people...
I think we're all entitled to our own beliefs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people also with, like, when making laws and forming these opinions, they do it based off of their religion, which isn't really fair, especially making...
If I wreck my car, it's up to me how I want to handle it. My car, my rules.
Violence, I'm just saying, you can tell this strip of a man has gotten away with being annoying his whole life.
Older people like you guys, you can't grasp the idea.
Excuse me, I'm quite young.
All right, buddy.
I identify as 19.
See, this is the argument that people keep pulling. It's not about that.
Why
If people want to be
legitimate argument though? Why can't I identify as a black person, but I can identify as a woman?
what? See, this is what I mean. Why is it harmful that people want to, like, identify as another gender? How does that harm you?
How does it harm you that I want to identify as 19?
It doesn't harm me.
Okay, so then why don't you accept it?
I didn't say I didn't accept it.
Do you accept that I'm 19?
If you want to say that, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't affect me.
So will you take...
Will women be as good at engineering as men?
Not necessarily, but...
Okay, well then, how is that different than the Secret Service example?
Well, the problem is that...
Because the male mind is wired differently than the female mind. By the way, men will never be as good... Hold on, I'll prove it to you. Men will never be as good at counseling or psychology sessions as women. Men will never be good at nursing or elementary school education as women. We have certain giftings as our brain is wired a certain way. Women are far better gifted at micro topics, so individual connection, empathetic type conversations, healing people that past trauma and wounds. Men are much better at macro topics, right? Trying to build a building, put a skyscraper up, trying to talk geopolitics, and I'll prove it to you. When you go and you see 5 women eating lunch, they're probably talking about micro topics, conversations they have, relationships.
These people can't see their own double standards because they never stop to think. They're just repeating what they've heard.
Because you're a man, you shouldn't have any words in
Okay.
this situation.
You're saying because I'm a man, I'm not affected by abortion, I shouldn't have an opinion on it?
Pretty much.
Are you affected in any way by the Holocaust?
Not personally, I'm not Jewish.
Do you think the Holocaust is bad?
I do.
So you have an opinion on something that doesn't directly affect you, right?
Yeah, but you're talking about affecting women's bodies.
Roughly half of aborted babies would be boys, so it affects men too. Who knew daddy issues could start so early?
Is this a serious question? You're asking me if I truly think that the country is in a better place now than it was when Trump was president. Yes, I do. Of course I do. And of course, Biden has spent much of his time cleaning up the that your fat president, Nimrod, stupid criminal, did to damage this country for so many years. And we're still cleaning up the on the streets because you racist keep everything, shooting everybody, and basically being prejudiced against anybody who doesn't look like your white skin and blue eyes.
Did anybody else think this was Ellen DeGeneres without adrenochrome on first sight? Listen, since you think Biden is cleaning up everything, how about he clean up the mentally unstable? Because that's exactly what you are.
She's spewing so much hate she can't see her own faults. The world could use a mirror check, minus the drama.
I really wanted to thank you for coming out today and specifically for talking to those who have different viewpoints than your own. I'm not looking to argue with you. I just want to know about the ideology as to why you think that a woman shouldn't have the right to her own bodily autonomy in regards to abortion.
A woman should have the right to her own bodily autonomy, but not to kill another human. You know, but as far as the idea that I'm like sitting awake at night thinking, how do I control women's bodies? No, not really, not at all, actually. The thing that I do care about is the preservation of human lives. I don't have an argument that pro-choicers are ignoring a premise. That's fine. You're allowed to ignore a premise or think a premise that I'm giving is wrong. It turns out that the vast majority of women for literally all of human existence have engaged in childbearing and rearing, and it has not, in fact, ruined their lives. In fact, married women with children are, by poll data, the happiest women in America.
All right, thank you for the straw man fallacy. Thank you.
I missed what she actually said. What was it? Straw man?
Straw man fallacy, I think.
You can't just shout straw man and run away. Do you want to come back and explain why it was a straw man, or no? Okay, you're just going to run away.
My life matters. I don't need your privilege to tell me or to justify who I am in America. This is my country, and I don't have to have you to co-sign and tell me my life matters. That right there insinuates that you think your voice is bigger and better than mine. But you are supporting an organization that does not like black men. And as a black woman, I can tell you how important black men are to the black family. Without them, we are nothing.
Love her. She gets it right down to the bottom. So this white liberal kid is talking about how great Black Lives Matter is. She goes, you don't know anything about Black Lives or Black Lives Matter for that matter. Black Lives Matter is terrible for black people. Black Lives Matter is terrible for a great many reasons, but in particular because it wants to subvert the family. It's very bad for black.
When white liberals argue with her, they just prove her point even more. It's like they're giving her a medal.
A man can have a kid.
How?
Transgender. Your gender changes. You can have a kid. Google. Get out of my face. I'm not transgender. I'm a bitch.
What?
You said that. How's my feelings hurt? How's my feelings hurt?
What's her problem?
They call a female cat with ovaries a girl, but a human? Apparently, it's complicated. The logic is all over the place.
Do you believe that doing OnlyFans, does that give you confidence? Does that build your confidence? Do you feel more confident because you do OnlyFans?
I think, actually, yeah.
Because I think it's a false sense of confidence. Because here's the reason why I say this. Because OnlyFans gives you confidence because it's based on looks. It's only based on looks. You're not having Pulitzer Prize conversations with people that are checking out your titties and your vagina. So the second the OnlyFans is done,
she realizes she's got nothing left. It's like unwrapping a gift and finding it empty.
Imagine being trans and trying to go get your medication.
I can't imagine.
And I literally walk up there, the lady on the phone is like, oh, can I have your last name? And so I give it to her. She's like, oh, okay, I'll meet you out there and I'll give you your prescription, right? So I'm waiting and she comes out and then she says, oh, is this for? And then she says my dead name. No! And I'm like, my name is Rylan.
Sir, I've made a terrible mistake.
And she just looks at me. And then she puts the medication on the table and shuts the door and locks it behind her.
This conversation is over.
Imagine being a pharmacist and almost giving out the wrong meds. Like a life or death guessing game.
Right here, yeah. The cat is a boy. How do I know?
Cats don't really have gender.
they had just said that there's a way to check its gender.
Oh, that's how we know.
Whoa, whoa.
Ask a trans person the gender of their pet, and then ask them how they can tell.
Because of her parts. She had ovaries.
Are you straight, gay, or something else?
I'm Korean.
Okay, we heard you.
Yeah, no.
Can you call it because she won't let us call it?
Yeah, what's the phone number?
916. Well, he could have turned off the ringer.
Oh
my God! What do you want him to get naked, lady?
All right, guys. Let's try to just stay calm and cool. Okay. So 916.
I really need my phone back. Stop looking at him like it's hurt.
Is everything in my pocket?
Do you want to pat him down?
You pat me down, girl. That's all I got. I'm still waiting for the number.
Well, if it's in his pocket, it won't ring because he turned off your ringer. Is what you're also accusing us of. Even though he just emptied out everything in his pocket. Want to turn around?
Guys, can we?
Well, they have my number, and they have my phone.
Well, let's.
I just stuck it right here. You walk right behind me.
How about you type it in? I didn't take it.
You type it in.
I did not take it.
We're trying to hit people.
Get the f out of my face now!
Ooh, that was very rude of you.
Get the f out of my face!
Do you want to go to jail, sir, ma'am? I don't really know what to call you.
You're done, man.
I'm done.
Get the police, you just insulted me.
Well, listen here, pal. I mean, you are gonna go to jail.
And I could tell the police to get you.
I'm vegan, so don't say that. Listen.
You told me, He-Man, you really get the out of my way right now.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
You do not have a release. I will sue you.
You're gonna sue him? Don't sue him, man, because we're trying to just.
You do not have a release. If you post this, I will destroy you. I will destroy you.
Keep going on. I got my crew with me now. I got my crew, yeah!
His gender will be obvious when he's placed in a men's jail. Nothing like paperwork to set things straight.
The first thing I think people ought to recognize about Hitler taking power is that the power had been centralized in the government before Hitler took it. So if you actually look at the history of Nazi Germany, the Weimar Republic had effectively collapsed. The power had been centralized in the chancellery and really under Hindenburg for a couple of years before that. And so it was only a matter of time until someone who was bad grabbed the power. And so the struggle between the Reds and the Browns in Nazism, in pre-Nazi Germany, led to this kind of up-spiraling of radical sentiment that allowed Hitler in through the front door, not through the back door. Right? He was elected.
So you think communists could have also taken power?
I mean, there's no question communists could have taken power. They were a serious force in pre-Nazi Germany.
Do you think there was an underlying current that would have led to an atrocity if the communists had taken power?
Wouldn't have been quite the same atrocity, but obviously the communists in Soviet Russia at exactly this time were committing the Holodomor.
Yeah.
Right. So it was there were very few good guys in terms of good parties. The moderate parties were being dragged by the radicals into alliance with them to prevent the worst case scenario from the other guy. Right. So if you look at, I'm sort of fascinated by the history of this period because it really does speak to how does a democracy break down. I mean, the 20s Weimar Republic was a very liberal democracy. How does a liberal democracy break down into complete fascism? And there's a character who was very prominent in the history of that time named Franz von Papen, who was actually the second to last chancellor of the Republic before Hitler. So he was the chancellor, and then he handed over to Schleicher, and then Schleicher ended up collapsing, and that ended up handing power over to Hitler. It was Papen who had stumped for Hitler to become chancellor. Papen was a Catholic Democrat. He didn't like Hitler. He thought that Hitler was a radical and a nut job. But he also thought that Hitler, being a buffoon as he saw it, was usable by
the woke view says big traumas like slavery or the Holocaust can affect families for generations. It's like inheriting emotional baggage instead of something nice.
So, what about conservatism do you think is weird?
I mean, depends on what conservatives you're talking about, you know what I mean? I mean, like anybody who wants to limit the freedoms of other people, I don't think that's a good thing, and I think that's kind of a weird thing to do.
Do you think conservatives are the ones trying to limit that?
Well, I mean, there's people on both sides that try to limit people's freedom. It's not just one side that tries to limit freedom. But at the moment, it's mostly conservatives doing it, yeah. And obviously not every conservative agrees with it, but, you know, it just seems like a lot of them are doing that.
Do you think it's weird to put tampons in children's boys' bathrooms?
I don't care.
Do you not think that's weird, though?
I really don't care, though. I mean...
But it's weird.
I guess that can be your opinion. Everybody's allowed to have their own opinion.
Do you think it's weird?
I don't care. I really don't care about it. I don't think about it.
Weird or not weird?
I don't think about it.
Come on.
What are you trying to get me to say?
Weird or not weird? Is it weird or not weird?
It's up for them to decide. It's their bathroom, you know what I mean? It's not my bathroom.
The children's bathroom?
Whoever owns the bathroom, man.
But children can't consent.
If I don't
think the adults implementing it. So do you think it's weird?
I'm not going to have kids anyway, so.
Yeah, but it's children's bathroom, so they can't consent to tampons being...
Some children are old enough to need tampons, you know.
Boys?
Why not?
That's the weird part, because it's...
I mean, who cares, though? I mean, you know, they're pretty cheap, aren't they? I don't know, I don't use them. Are they? Are tampons cheap?
I have no idea. I'm not.
Are the tampons cheap?
I'm not old. How about you?
Ish. All right. Well, then I don't care. You know.
Elementary school.
If it's elementary, they can't use it. I mean,
exactly.
I don't know.
It's weird.
It's not for me. Well, I mean, it's not for me to think about, though.
Just say it's weird.
It's not. Why do you want me to say it's?
Because it's weird.
Why do you want me to affirm your belief, man? You should come up to your own conclusions on this kind of thing. You should be asking me, why am I the guy you're going to about this? Do I look like the kind of guy that's going to sway anybody's opinion on any subject?
You do. Trust me, you do.
No, I don't think about it either way. People can do whatever the hell they want to do. You know what I mean? I don't have any kids, so it's really not my place to decide.
So you think it's weird?
Did I say that? Why are you putting words in my mouth?
So you don't think it's weird?
I don't think either way on it.
Oh, come on. All right. I'm going to go to the next question.
All right. You have fun, man.
No. Not next person. Next question.
Oh, God.
We're just beginning here. We're going to be best friends.
Are we? Okay.
Notice how he doesn't talk about anything that actually matters.
What do you mean?
I mean, what about like tampons and bathrooms?
Because it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but I mean, don't some kids have periods around that 12
Boys?
months? What?
Boys?
What if they got a girlfriend or, you know, they have a friend they're really close to in school?
Boys?
Yeah.
It's in the boys' bathroom.
Yeah, what if
in
they
elementary
need to grab one
school.
for their girlfriend, man?
Then it would be in the girls' bathroom.
Then it would be in the girls' bathroom. What if she doesn't want to go in there and grab it because there's a bunch of other girls in there?
Well, then she doesn't need it that bad.
That doesn't really... Okay, so she's bleeding, but because she doesn't want to embarrass herself, she doesn't need it that bad?
And it's not embarrassing for a dude to go get a tampon? It's in elementary school?
I actually think it's pretty chivalrous. Oh my God, I can't say it.
Chivalrous.
To care for a woman.
Yeah, of course it is. But I mean, if you need a tampon, it's normal.
Okay. So I don't understand.
For a
girl's bathroom's out. Oh, my girlfriend needs a tampon. Oh, I'm gonna go. Oh, the boys' bathroom's got them. So what the cares?
That's so weird.
I think condoms should be in both. Why not?
I said tampons, not condoms.
Oh, wait. You think it's less weird for condoms to be in girls' bathrooms than tampons to be in boys'? Why?
No, I don't think condoms should be in elementary school bathrooms.
Why not?
Because they're in elementary school.
Do you understand that some kids might at that age, you know, go do that?
I don't think in elementary school. No,
maybe not elementary school, bro. But
like you just said that.
That's another thing. I'm just not going to talk about that either because I don't have
some
kids.
Some kids hit puberty at like 11, 12, man, 10. You can look up the stats.
That's not elementary school.
It's like 1% of kids who have it, but I don't want like 1% of kids getting pregnant at like 12. You can go and look in like countries that do this early sex education, man. It works. The Dutch.
Well, yeah, I mean, sex education, yeah. I mean, I don't know if we should be providing kids that young with condoms. I don't know. That might just be me, though.
That's a little bit weird.
I wouldn't.
A little bit weird, but it works. That's the point.
I would say, I don't know.
Rates in the Netherlands are down
maybe. Idealistic, maybe. You know what I mean?
Why are you so afraid of education and like safe sex and?
Well, first off, I'm for abstinence. Second off, I think it's weird that tampons or condoms are in children's elementary school bathrooms.
Completely different things, though. Well,
he brought up both.
Yeah, I
opened up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
But I just think that, you know, countries where, you know, They do this early sex education stuff. You can Google it on the Netherlands. Like, look up the Dutch sex education.
Well, we're in America. We're in America.
We're in America, but we shouldn't take other countries' ideas that work because we're so good.
Well, I don't think they were. I think
country's built off
I mean, if we start putting if we start putting condoms in school bathrooms, they're going to think it's a balloon and start trying to blow it up.
What's the problem with that?
Okay, yeah. In school now, we're going to start blowing up condoms. Logic right there.
People do that already. But
Remember when we thought we'd have flying cars? Now we're stuck debating dozens of genders. Feels like we went off course somewhere. Thank you for watching these genuine moments of courage. If you're against double standards, subscribe for more bold discussions. Share a time when you stood up for yourself in the comments. New videos every week.